All right, we're back into it. You know, guys, I got to tell you that normally on Saturday mornings when Ken and Mike and I are in here, we play these little feature bumper music deals. We'll start making you guys guess the song of the day and kind of do a little deal. I think that was ELO, but don't hold me to that. Mike or Ken's the one that actually programmed a lot of that stuff. But all right, let's get back to it. Mike, tell me, why in the heck does somebody get motivated to become a financial planner? When did you wake up and all of a sudden say one day, I want to manage other people's money?
Well, you would think my grandfather doing it before me, working at the big brokerage house, Merrill Lynch, and then my father before him, after him, did it. You'd think it would be in my blood, and also being the only boy out of 3 girls, that it was just a natural thing. But actually, I went the other way in college. I thought I was going to be the next big football player, et cetera, et cetera. And
at Texas A&M?
Walked on at Texas A&M as a punter. So those of you that have seen me, no, I'm not a 350-pound lineman by any means. But I really thought that was going to be the way that I go. But, of course, the time that I'm at A&M, little freshman out of East Bernard High School at the time, was there in a quarterback scholarship, and he walks over and starts kicking. And now he is, I think, a 13-time All-Pro. His name's Shane Leckler. He's going to be the second punter probably. Yes, of course. You know, that was God's way of saying, maybe you need to go do something.
Find another career.
But what really drove me was I did notice something, even as a young boy, if you will, working and living out in the sticks, as we called them. We lived so far out in the country out there in Hubbard. We lived 3 miles outside of Hubbard that we didn't even have phones. The phone company would not drill the ditch for the line to go out there. It was too cost prohibitive. So, yeah.
For those of you too young to know, that's when there were actually like phone lines.
Absolutely.
These things called cell phones weren't in your pocket all the time.
So I can't wait for that day when my daughters come to me and say, Daddy, I want a cell phone. I'm going to be like, could you imagine? I'm going to be that old fogey that says, back in my day, we didn't even have a phone. But it's, could you imagine trying to ask a girl out on a date and she say, well, why don't you just give me a call? Well, maybe I can drop you a letter in the mail and you can give me a response. But anyway, growing up out there, basically with that work ethic, seeing the struggles that my mom had to help support us, really ingrained in me that I really wanted to learn how the guys that I see in these suits and the guys that I see that are successful in my eyes at that time, how do they do it? They're not out there digging a ditch or doing this. They are investing their own money. They're making the money work for them. And that was something that very much appealed to me as a young man. I tell this story because when I talk to different organizations, I always bring it up that when I was in high school, we actually qualified for free lunch. And I remember being in line, and I would use the money that I was making at Dairy Queen at the time or whatever it may be. I would pay for lunch even though we had it for free. And I understand what it means to be prideful sometimes. It's not something I'm proud of, but I understand when people are going through struggles, I would like to think, or unemployed or laid off or having some difficulties with money management. It's something that instilled in me to this day to work hard, do right, and invest as if it was your own money. Anyway.
Thank you. All right, Renee, same question to you. One day you decide to wake up, you're Dr. Pepper, and you say, nah, I want to go become a life coach. How did you make the transition? Where did that come into? How did it play out in your life?
You know, as I mentioned earlier, I actually had my own personal coach through the Jack Canfield coaching process, or Jack Canfield Companies is a year-long coaching process. And through that, with a guy named Gary Reed, who's my personal coach, we would have a call every week. And going through the workbook, I was really I was discovering a whole lot about myself. Just going through that process, as we mentioned earlier.
Good, bad, indifferent?
All of it.
All of it.
All of it.
Gotcha.
You found out everything about yourself, what you didn't like, what you liked, and you just started working through those processes. And I really liked the process when I worked in HR. That's really the key pieces I love working with people on that. And when as I mentioned earlier about the light bulb going off and seeing them make successes and make changes, that's what really touches me in my heart a lot, because it's just neat to see somebody grow or to make more money, as you, Mike, as financial planning, if they're able to make more money just because of the things that they change. I mean, it's pretty cool to see that happen. So after my coaching process for a year, that's when I started really looking at the business side of it and saying, hey, I have that, or I've been told I have that touch to help people with my skill level, and also I provide hope and possibilities to people. That's kind of what my nature is.
Sure.
And so, that's where it all began. And my mother has instilled in me that piece of always giving back. She's always been that type of person to give back to individuals and just help them out. So I think a lot of that comes from her, just looking back on it. And I was talking to her recently, and she's one of those women that has a lot of vision. And my dad was kind of always took the conservative approach, but she's always had this vision, and she's always wanted me to be a doctor. And so, I ended up at Dr. Pepper. I wasn't a doctor, but that's what I told some students Wednesday night when I was teaching at ITT and some graduating classes. I mentioned that, and they all thought that was kind of cool. But so,
a different kind of doctor.
Yeah, a different doctor. But to me, it really touches me when I'm able to make an impact on someone, and that's where I got that from.
I think that's a great segue too. We talked about what we want to get out of this show. It's not what the three of us want to get out of this. This is about what you as listeners out there are dealing with in your everyday daily life. What are those things that you're not able to sleep at night? What's literally keeping you up and kind of drawing you into different situations? And feel free, 972-923-1390, to give us a call anytime. We will be more than happy to take your question and get it in front of these two guys. To that end, we talked kind of before we started this thing about trying to create credibility for you guys, trying to create a sense for our listeners of where your areas of expertise are and what you bring to the table and how you can help our listeners with the information necessary to go out there. I'd like you guys to both tell me a little bit about this whole issue of specializing, because, again, I know in financial planning, Mike, there are 150,000 different ways that you can go out and make a living at this. And Renee, I know in your case, life coaches, there's 150,000 different approaches and different ways and mechanisms, and some go more into the spiritual side of it, some go more into the physical side of it, whatever it may be. What makes you guys different? What makes you guys unique in your fields?
You mind?
No, go ahead.
Mike's had to be quiet here for 3 minutes, Renee. He's fighting at the bit.
Well, no, it's because I get this question all the time. Who's Hill and Associates versus, I won't say the name, but competitors around town, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll tell you, the one thing that really drove me nuts, I did an internship with Merrill Lynch after I got my MBA at A&M, and I'll never forget it. And I'll mention them by name because... we'll just leave it at that. But I'll never forget just how they would give us 100 names. This is before the do not call list. Go down the list, call as many as you can. Doesn't matter. Call your friends, call your brother, call your sister, call your mom. Make them clients. If you don't make it, tough. We're at least going to keep people as clients.
Now, did they give you the tip of the day? Buy Exxon or buy GE?
This is, of course,
and push.
95, 96, and now it's all been found out. Of course, they would underwrite the stock offering and guess which one they're pushing because that's the one they're getting the higher commission on, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And right around 2001, not too long after 9/11, and this is, of course, when I went and started working independently to grow my own practice, I said, we've all read the same books. We've all gone to the same seminars. We've all had the same teachings in college. It's diversify. Put your money in this mutual fund. Put your money in this. And after 9/11, when the market went down 20, 25%, and it didn't matter what you were invested in, I didn't like making those phone calls. I didn't like calling people and say, yes, ma'am, the typical script that we have all heard. Hey, it's going to come back. It's a long-term investing, blah. But now, 10 years later, thank God, I have differentiated myself going back all the way to 2001 because I didn't want to do that anymore. I started doing a lot of research right around 2003, 2004 is when and I know I'm getting a little wordy here, so bear with me, but this is very important because you asked me how I'm different. This would be it. I started reading up on the Harvard, Yale, and Stanford endowments because I always make the joke, I may not be the smartest guy in the room or even know the answer, but by God, I'm going to find out who does and find out what they're doing. Well, Harvard, Yale, and Stanford, and even Notre Dame's endowment, their college endowment funds, for 10 years now, from 2001 to 2011, have averaged an 8 to 9% return per year. In 2008, the average endowment was only down 2 to 3%. And I started looking at all these numbers, and after 2008, I was sold. I was done. Each one of them are only invested about 20% in the stock market. I'm not saying the stock market's 1,000% evil, get all out. That's not what I'm saying. But to throw all your money into a system where every time a stock is bought, somebody's a winner
and somebody's a loser.
Every single time.
Sure.
I had an internal ethical problem with that I'm trying to invest for people based on the loss, if you will, of somebody else that I'd have never met. And we'll get into that more maybe as the shows go on in weeks, but those endowments, they invest in hard assets, they invest in alternative assets outside of the stock market. And when I really wanted to start doing more business down here in Ellis County, because I live here as opposed to my offices up in North Dallas, is because I didn't see anything like that down here.
Sure.
And I want to just bring a different approach. It may not be the approach for everybody. I may say things that people quite frankly don't like or don't want to know. But it's a definite different approach that I think people need to know about.
I've tried to share with people, and when it comes to making money, there's no magic in the stock market. There's no magic in the real estate market. There's no magic in the gold market. No matter what you're doing is you're trying to buy it at a lower price and sell it for a higher price, and the difference there is the profit. So, so many times people think that can only be done in one asset class or in one financial mechanism or whatever. No, there's any number of ways to do that and any number of ways to diversify. Okay, life coach, tell me what makes your whole life and your approach to this whole process unique and different.
Well, what makes me unique or makes our business different is, for the past 20 years or so, I've been reading quite a bit of books and attending quite a few seminars through Wayne Dyer and also Jack Canfield's success programs. And so what I bring to the table is just a mixture of also some of the life struggles that I've been through. I mean, there's a lot of challenges that I've been through in my career that I can really expand on. And one of the things is that fear kept me where I was at for many years because I was afraid to make those changes. And to give someone an understanding of how that can keep you stuck, I think that can really just kind of give them something.
Help define fear for me. I mean, we all have fear in our everyday daily life. Are we going to, in my case, am I going to make payroll on Wednesday? But, I mean, that's a financial fear in whatever. If I bought a radio station and am I driving it into the ground and are the listeners ready to...
Have you put that budget together yet?
I have put the budget together. But, I mean, fear can be paralyzing for some people. And I know that stops the process, I would assume.
It does. It's a lot of it is we make a lot of false assumptions about fear. And two, that I was talking to a guy just the other day, and he's actually wanting to leave a job after 20 years, something similar to me. And one of the things he said was, I'm trying to get into this other career, but if I just make 2 more sales, then I'll make that change. And so I asked him, I said, so what if those 2 sales don't come until 6 months or a year down the road? And the light bulb, he goes, you know what? I may not make that change for another year or 2. I said, exactly. I said, no, he has 2 kids that he has to provide food, and he's married. And so I gave him that information, or made him aware of that. And he said, so I may not even make that change. I said, it's a possibility. I said, it's up to you. I said, I'm not telling you to quit your job and lose your insurance and income. I said, but just look at how you're saying that you may not make that change because you're waiting for the dominoes.
Sure.
And that touches into finances too. If you're willing to jump into the stock market or not get into the stock market, I mean that makes sense.
Well, and I know that's one of the first things the financial planners will always talk to you about is what is your risk tolerance, what are you adverse to, those kind of things. I think you guys have come to a focal point of what you really have to be willing to do is take a true inventory of yourself and what is involved in that inventory. You may find skeletons in the closet. You may find things that you're very comfortable with, and there may be things that you're uncomfortable with. And if you're in that process and in going through the area of denial, then nothing gets done. But you've got to take the first step, and you've got to take control of your actions.
Exactly.
Pure and simple.
And not to put the financial hat on, but I mean that's why I love doing a show with Renee, because I think finances and your life ambitions, your life goals, your lifestyle go hand in hand.
Sure.
All of us can say, hey, we want to be the next airline pilot, but okay, how are we going to pay for all those hours up in the airplane to get those lessons?
I wanted to be a basketball player, and unfortunately, I'm 5'10", a poor white kid who can't jump, and that's all that needs to be said on that topic.
And
so.
we already talked about my punting issues.
Right,
I'm still
exactly.
in therapy over that. But, and that's something I get it when people come in my office. So, Mike, you talk about different things. You talk about different investments, because I do not want to be seen as a stock market guy. I even hate the connotation financial advisor, if you will, because it has such a negative connotation. It seems like everybody puts that on a business card, and it's very vanilla. I'm a retirement income guy. I'm not going to get you 30% return. But when I have people come in there, okay, Mike, this is what I've done for 10 years. I want to move. But, and this kind of goes on what Renee was saying, I got to wait for my statement. It was so high 2 years ago. It was $20,000 more than what it is right now in my 401k. And I know I need to move it, but I just need to wait till it gets to that point. Mm-hmm. And that's that fear. But it's also, how do you know? That wasn't the highest point that it's ever going to be.
Sure. Right.
And the example I always give is, of course, it's easy for anybody that has kids. What's the happiest moment in your life? Well, when your child was born. If you're always waiting around, let's not even talk about finances, to achieve the same level of happiness that you had on the happiest day of your life, you may never get that happiness again. You may never achieve that same level, and that fear is what holds you back.
Well, you mentioned about happiness. I would like to just interject, too, that you can be happy no matter what situation you're in. You just have to choose that as a life, just looking at it in life perspective, not taking that away from you, Mike.
No, absolutely.
Because when you look at money, as we mentioned earlier, it's a success status.
Money is simply a motivator, and it is a measuring stick for some people. It doesn't have to be for all.
No, but, I saw a quote from a friend of mine on Facebook about being happy. So just choose to be happy. And sometimes those little sayings like that resonate with me, because we can get in that gutter, so to speak, and just wallow in it. Just like you mentioned earlier at the first of the show, the negativity can just really just kind of take you in a spiraling situation and keep you stuck.
One of the best lines I ever heard, a good friend of mine who just comes up with the one-liners day in and day out. Is the glass half empty or is the glass half full? And how many times have we heard, the guy that says the glass is half empty is the negative one and the glass is half full is the optimist? This guy says, I don't care how much is in the glass. I want to figure out a way to fill it up, drink it down, and fill it up again. And I thought, you know what? That's a person that truly has a perspective on life of, I'm going to figure out how to get more out of life, put more into the glass, make that glass a little bit better off, and at the end of the day, when it gets too full, hey, I got to empty it, so why not empty it and then fill it up again?
I like that. I like that a lot.
I did too. All right, we got about a minute and a half here, guys. We kind of alluded about what motivated you, what got you into the businesses and whatever. What's your guys' hope for the show? What do you guys want to get out of it? Besides more clients and more money and all that kind of stuff. I know that's not...
My hope for the show was... being here for 4 years, being up there and I'll go ahead and tell you, my main office is up there in Plano. My main goal for the show is I live down here. I see people in the grocery store. I want to get more indoctrinated down here in this community. I want to show things that have worked for my people up there in North Dallas and bring it home.
Good deal.
For Pete's sake.
Same here. I think my motivation is, and when I talk to Mike about the show, is really to help the community and help people see that there's a possibility. Again, bringing hope and possibility to the community and let them see that they can definitely create the life they want and make an impact on them.
Good deal. Hey, we're going to take a little bit of a break here. Feel free to give us a call anytime you want, 972-923-1390, or drop us an email.